What are sensitive periods? Sensitive periods are critical to a child's development, and they inform many Montessori practices. Understanding sensitive periods can support parenting, caregiving, and educating in many positive ways. Sensitive periods occur exclusively in the first plane of development from birth to 6 years of age. There are periods of time when a child has a heightened ability to develop a skill or acquire knowledge quickly and with ease. They can be thought of as explosions in a child's development that will serve as the foundation for characteristics that they will carry with them for the rest of their lives. Others may consider them a form of compulsion, where a child becomes obsessed with acquiring a new skill or gaining some new knowledge. For instance, when a child becomes so interested in learning to pull themselves upright and continues to attempt to do so over and over again, so much so that they skip their naps and don't seem defeated at all when they fall, what seems to be a million times, in order to continue practicing and mastering this new skill. Sensitive periods can help us as adults to understand a child's interests and to follow their lead. Follow the child, as Maria Montessori said, as we introduce activities that align with those interests and further promote brain development through the creation of a carefully prepared environment. Each of these sensitive periods provide us with a unique opportunity to greatly influence a child's growth and development. Some sensitive periods are so noticeable that even those unfamiliar with the Montessori method would be able to see them. For instance, the Montessori sensitive period for movement in the form of walking occurs between 12 to 15 months and is so easily recognizable. Recognizing other sensitive periods in a child's development might be easier than you think as well. Have you ever wondered why a young child wants to repeat the same song or story what seems to be a million times? It might seem unnecessary to us as adults, but these are classic symptoms of a child's sensibility or sensitivity. The repetition is never tiring for them, and they seem to find great joy or peace in what they're doing. They have a high tolerance for failure within this repetition, exerting meaningful effort. You may also observe sensitive periods by watching for a restful or tranquil state that develops at the culmination of an activity after much intense concentration and repetition from the child. Other characteristics of sensitive periods might include mimicking, intense concentration, and compulsive or obsessive behaviors. Interrupting a child while they're in the middle of an intense sensitive period can result in a powerful emotional response, what we might think of as a tantrum. This is another sign that a sensitive period is occurring. If we break a routine that a child is attempting to understand and master, such as getting dressed, bath time, or bedtime, some children will emotionally fall apart. The terrible twos, for example, are often an exaggerated reaction to small disruptions in order that might not even be perceived by us as adults. This is because children are likely in a sensitive period for learning, and their work is being interrupted. Their sense of order is being thrown off. Being attuned to these moments of strong emotional responses can also help us as adults to identify a child's sensitive periods. Sensitive periods manifest themselves in two distinct ways, then. The first is positive, and the second is negative. Signs that a positive manifestation is occurring are intense focus, joy, peace, and tremendous concentration and activity. These are signs that a child's needs are being met by the environment and that they're able to fully explore their interests. In a negative manifestation, the child's environment is not providing them with what they need to develop a certain sensitive period. This can often be frustrating for a young child, causing these large emotional responses and big feelings. There is no set timeline of when these sensitive periods occur within the plane of development that they exist within or how long they might last. The timing of these sensitive periods is unique to each child. The end of a sensitive period, however, can be recognizable through observation. When a child becomes disinterested in a task or a material, when they grow tired of engaging in that task, especially after that sense of joy and sense of peace and calm has been observed. Sensitive periods are transitive states. Once the aim of a particular sensibility is accomplished, then that period disappears. Sensitive periods are never relived or regained. They do not occur in a specific order, and a child can actually experience multiple sensitive periods or sensibilities at one time. It is important to take a moment to mention that if a sensitive period is missed, this does not mean that all hope is lost. It does not mean that the child will not master that skill or gain that knowledge. It simply means that it may involve less joy and may require more time and effort on the child's part to reach mastery, similar to that which is required when an adult attempts to learn a second language. Maria Montessori stated that when the sensitive period has disappeared, intellectual victories are reported through reasoning processes, voluntary efforts, and the toil of research. And from the torpor of indifference is born the weariness of labor. So it can happen, but what you'll see is and feel is toil, weariness, lots of voluntary effort. Maria Montessori identified 6 sensitive periods in a child's life, including language, order, movement, refinement of the senses, small objects or tiny details, and social behaviors or grace and courtesy. There is some debate about the actual number of sensitive periods. Some Montessorians today note up to 6 additional sensitive periods, including toilet learning, music, mathematics, spatial relationships, and reading and writing. Today, we're going to focus on the original 6 that Maria Montessori defined. The first sensitive period that we're going to discuss is language. It takes place between the time of birth to 6 years of age. It includes separate periods of expressive language, reading, and writing. During this time, children will watch the mouths of those around them, will babble, will begin to mimic what others say, and soon thereafter, a language explosion occurs. Around 3.5 years old, children become fascinated with letters and numbers. They attempt to reproduce these with pencil or pen and paper. Maria Montessori discovered that writing actually perceives reading. A spontaneous interest in these symbolic representations of the sounds of each letter and in the formation of words occurs then between 3 to 5 years of age. Between 1 to 5 years old, a child will enter the sensitive period for order. Some say this period begins even earlier, around 6 months of age, and peaks around 18 months. This sensitive period is characterized by a desire for consistency and repetition. Children have an innate need for predictability. They have a passionate love for established routines and can be deeply disturbed by disorder. This time is typically marked by tantrums and seemingly unexplained fussiness, which is likely a result of a disruption in the child's sense of order. Between the period of 1 to 3 years, children often become fascinated with tiny details and small objects. This period helps a child develop their concentration. It can also integrate other sensibilities, such as the development of fine motor skills, when using a pencil grasp to pick up tiny objects, or when better understanding a child's sense of order. The sensitive period for movement occurs from birth to around age 4.5 or 5. Children grow physically and mentally so much during this short time. Even from the first few moments of life, babies begin to flail their arms and tense and relax their muscles. It doesn't stop there, though. Take some time to observe a toddler. Sit still and watch how many steps the child takes, how they pick things up and move them from one place and then put them back down, carrying items from one side of the room to the other and back again. This isn't because of a lack of attention. It's their sensibility causing this constant movement. This sensitive period not only includes gross motor skills like crawling, walking, and climbing, but also refers to the refinement of a child's fine motor skills. During this time, random movements become coordinated and controlled. From 2.5 to 5 years, children experience sensitivities to refining and coordinating these movements. For example, being able to hold small items with a pincer grip and releasing them voluntarily. Walking becomes running, balancing, jumping, and climbing. Between birth to around 5 years of age, children are refining their senses of taste, smell, touch, sight, and sound. This period is marked by a fascination with sensorial experiences, which results in children learning to observe and make increasingly refined sensorial discriminations. Providing children with rich sensorial experiences that engage these senses is key during this time period. Around 2.5 years old, a child enters the sensitive period for social skills, also known as manners. Maria Montessori referred to this as grace and courtesy. Grace and courtesy includes the imitation of polite and considerate behavior, which leads to the internalization of these qualities. Maria Montessori said, social grace, inner discipline, and joy. These are the birthright of the human being who has been allowed to develop essential human qualities. These essential human qualities are learned from parents, caregivers, and teachers. Children will carry the manners that they absorb and establish at a young age with them throughout the rest of their lives. Common examples of grace and courtesy include asking for a turn, introducing oneself, greeting someone, holding the door for others, handling coughing and sneezing politely, giving and receiving compliments, respecting personal space, and waiting patiently. It is also during this sensitive period for grace and courtesy that a child moves from independent play to wanting to build friendships and play with others rather than next to them. And this allows them to continue practicing and developing these social manners. Maria Montessori reminds us, the sensitive period, it comes for a moment, but its benefits last for a lifetime. For parents and caregivers practicing Montessori at home, and for classroom guides, understanding these sensitive periods can not only help set children up for success, but can also make our lives easier by helping us to help children remain engaged and joyful in their activity. Since most babies and toddlers are often unable to communicate their needs or innate interests during these first 3 years of life, it is our job as adults to educate ourselves and to help support them in this process. By knowing about these sensitive periods, parents, caregivers, and educators can begin to create a Montessori prepared environment that is tailored to each child's individual needs and interests, helping children to refine their skills and to develop knowledge during this crucial period in their lives. We'd love for you to share with us in the comments an example of a sensitive period that you've observed and how you've prepared an environment to follow the child with this interest. And remember, we have lots of other really great videos, so make sure that you've subscribed to our channel and that you're following along on our other social media platforms as well. Until next time, have a wonderful day.